All right, we are back. It's No Apologies, your after-hours oasis of sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hinz, and our esteemed guest, Ronna McDaniel.
Get it right. Yeah,
it's a tough name. It's a tough name.
So we were talking about elections earlier, and I want to put in a quick plug for people to check out your new podcast. You've done 3 of them already. I think you started with Kristi Noem. You had Governor Abbott from Texas, and now you've done the 3rd one with Kellyanne Conway, who is, on Trump's polling staff and a counselor to the president. But she is an amazing pollster. She just really is. Oh. And it was so good. I have it on my Facebook page if anybody wants to see it, but it was really, really good.
Well, thank you. And part of what I enjoy so much as being chair of the RNC is I get to talk to people in a longer format and hear just so many amazing stories. So I wanted to bring this to the podcast so we could hear more than just like a 2-minute soundbite from some of these just great leaders. So I have one coming out next week with Mike Pompeo. You can get it on Spotify, GOP.com, everywhere. But the Kellyanne one I thought was really interesting because we go through a lot of these election integrity issues, the fact that the RNC was in over 50 lawsuits before the election, fighting for election integrity as Democrats were completely fighting to dismantle that. We won the majority of those. And then now we're in 19 lawsuits protecting these election laws that are being passed around the country. But we're watching Democrats try and remove safeguards to the election. And I don't know if many of your viewers know, Vermont actually just passed a law that allows non-citizens to vote in their elections.
I know,
That's
right?
how far they've gone.
I know, it's just ridiculous. That's so sad.
Well, they deserve what they get.
Well, we're going to sue them too.
Good.
We're not going to settle for that. We're going to be, hey, Vermont, we're going to be suing you, FYI.
That is nuts.
You alluded to it earlier. There was an RNC ad that ran in Major League Baseball that was talking about how Georgia just got the totally raw end of the deal for no reason whatsoever. Basically, there were some lies involved in what was said. And you did an op-ed recently, just I think yesterday, on Fox News that was fantastic, talking about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really tough to go. I went to Atlanta on Sunday to talk to these business owners. They were going to host the All-Star Game for the first time in 21 years. Many of these business owners had come out of the pandemic. They really needed that revenue for their restaurants, their hotels, people who work the concession stands. And then Joe Biden weighed in and said, I think the MLB should move the All-Star Game, and Stacey Abrams. And they lied about what was in this law. This law is so common sense. Voter ID, bipartisan poll watchers. It expands voting on Saturdays. It expands early voting, security for drop boxes, so many common sense measures. And it's so sad to watch the media and the corporate woke community and politicians on the Democrat side lie to the American people. And you know who lost? The people of Atlanta, the hardworking businessmen and women who lost that revenue. And it is a 51% Black city in Atlanta. It moved to a 76% white city in Denver. And on top of that, Colorado has more restrictive voting laws than Georgia. So the hypocrisy is so real. And we need to be looking through these lies that the Democrats are continuing to push out on laws that are really common sense to protect our elections.
You know, you brought up hypocrisy, and in the previous segment it was brought up as well. And you really cannot talk about the policies of the left without recognizing hypocrisy, because if they're consistent on one thing, it's being hypocritical. It's just phenomenal to me, and I think that's another thing that's going to drive voters away, because they want to belong to an organization that has at least some sense of integrity. So I think that's a further winning point for the Republican Party.
I do too, and I do think in this podcast I did with Kellyanne, she brought up the point, if you can't have a conversation with me without calling me a name, if we can't have an intelligent conversation about the issues, what the merits are of having voter ID that we have to use to get on planes, to go to the White House. In most of our lives, we have to verify who we are. Why wouldn't we have to do this in this important thing called an election? So the fact that they resort to names shows that they don't have the facts on their side. They know the American people, if they heard the issues, would agree with Republicans. So they go divisive and they name call. And that's really bad for our country. And they continue to stoke division in a time where, boy, we could use some unity in our country.
That is all true.
Yeah.
So 2022, it looks good.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you bullish on 22? Because I'm
Yeah, I mean, Lori, you know this, and you know this from the RNC meetings. The RNC has one job, really, in elections. We raise a lot of money, but we're out there registering voters right now, opening our minority engagement offices. We do so many things to turn out the vote. We turned out 75 million people in 2020 with President Trump leading the way. We picked up 15 House seats. We didn't lose a single incumbent. We're 50-50 in the Senate, and we picked up 135 state legislative seats. We are 5 seats away from retiring Nancy Pelosi and 1 seat away from retiring Chuck Schumer.
Yeah,
That makes me so happy at night. So we just need to make it happen, but it's not going to happen if we're fighting each other and attacking each other, which the media wants to amplify. We have to be reminding the American people of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing every day to dismantle our country. Things like stacking the Supreme Court and getting rid of the filibuster and keeping our borders open and getting rid of our energy independence and abandoning our ally in Israel and sacrificing our religious freedoms that we hold so dear, that our country was founded on. So many things are at stake in this election. So everyone needs to get engaged. The only way we lose is if people sit home.
Exactly. Well, in North Dakota, we voted 65.11% for Trump this one. So this is a really good state to be living in because it's a very conservative state. We're very red. We have super majorities in both the House and the Senate in the state House. So yay, that's good. Now, if we could, turn that into tax relief, that'd be great. But we're in a really good position to be able to get out the vote. And I think people are really fired up this time too. They were grassroots before, but I think, the grassroots is really on fire right now to do something good this next 2022.
Well, I agree. I just thank you both for what you do. Thank you for your service to our party, to our country. You guys wear me out. So, but everyone get out and vote in 2022.
We will do that. Rana, thank you.
Yes, you're doing a great job, Rana. Thank you very much for being on with us. We appreciate it. Folks, we are going to be back in just a couple of minutes. Stick with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.